Hello, elegant listeners, and welcome to Go, my favorite sports team. We're both tired right now, but this episode is going to be a doozy. I'm Tyler Scheid, master of balls and holes and beer and cups, and joined by my friend and fellow host, Markiplier, who can't drink beer.
I'm not tired at all. I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm tired.
It's 10 o'clock, which is actually usually my bedtime, but I'm fine.
I'm tired. I had the dentist this morning at 8:30 in the morning.
8:30. Oh.
Listen, I've been dealing with insomnia since my concussion. You know, your snobby not tiredness can shove it.
Hey, I haven't been getting great sleep either. You don't see me complaining about it. I'm doing great. I'm so full of energy. I'm peppy as can be. I can't be stopped. I will not be stopped. I refuse to be stopped, and I'm not going to be stopped as I go right into the sports news section. You're not going to say anything about it?
No, because there's not much more news because we already recorded like yesterday.
What do you mean? There's plenty of news. There's so much news with the French Open. There's a bunch of stuff happening there with Novak Djokovic withdrawing from the French Open due to an injury as of 11 hours ago.
Yeah, his knee injury. Yeah, I did see that.
I see a picture of him on the ground having his knee bent by a gruff man. That's probably not good. I think I know where the problem was.
We could also talk about the number of players that have been suspended from baseball, and another player outside of Pete Rose now has gotten a lifetime ban from Major League Baseball.
Whoa, why?
For gambling on baseball.
Well, that is what gets you. You know, that seems to be the number one problem. It's a good thing that there isn't a prevalent streak of sports gambling actually being really strongly pushed and endorsed.
It's not like it's being funneled or the major leagues are getting sponsorship dollars out the wazoo for major sports betting platforms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, it's, oh my God, I'm going to butcher the hell out of this name. And you know what? He's banned from baseball, so he deserves it.
Tucupita Marcano.
There you go.
In other news, Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter Ippei Muzahara pleads guilty to fraud charges, facing up to 33 years in prison. Which is such a fascinating thing because I believe it was trying to be downplayed of like, oh, it was just not really the interpreter, it was just a friend or something like that, or then, oh, it wasn't that bad. But 33 years, has not been sentenced, has only pled guilty. Sentencing will come later and it could be up to 33 years. But Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter pleads guilty to fraud charges.
Big news. Well, I got bigger news for you. Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, reaches historic 4-year, $140 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings.
Whoa.
They have officially agreed to the terms that includes $110 million of it guaranteed.
That's so much money.
And $88.743 million due at signing. So he signs, bam, money in his account.
Damn.
Wild.
Damn. In other news, disaster almost struck a monster truck rally as it clipped a power line, toppling live wires and utility poles onto the spectators. A lobster-themed monster truck performing for spectators in Maine clipped an aerial power line, toppling several utility poles and sending 2 people to the hospital. The Topsom Fairgrounds was hosting the monster truck event on Saturday when a vehicle dubbed the Crush Station bounced up a ramp, went airborne, and hit a power line. All those who were injured. Oh no, it says I certainly hope all those who were injured fully recovered. They are not fully recovered, but I don't think anybody has perished.
In greater, even bigger news, Hawaii's Kulea volcano pauses its eruption, but scientists warn situation can change quickly. Very sportly for all of those lava surfers out there and magma divers.
So maybe you could give some insight on this because Caitlin Clark has been in the news lately, not just for being really good at shooting 3-pointers, but because now that she's in the WNBA, she is being confronted with a lot more physicality than what she was used to. So there's an article here that I haven't read yet, but I just saw Caitlin Clark, physical playing questions about fouls dominating discussions around the WNBA. And there's a picture on here of someone who's pretty much like doing the Titanic pose with Caitlin Clark, except it seems like they've entwined their arms within each other. I'm not sure what the actual deal is because I've seen a lot of small snippets of this crossing over my news desk of whatever it is, and I see like, I'm not sure, some people are saying it's not a big deal, being like, welcome to the WNBA, or some people are saying like they're specifically targeting her because she's the new blood and, you know, the latest story, and people are trying to like, you know, they haze the new person or something like that. I'm not sure what it is.
So there's theories around this because, you know, Caitlin Clark is distinctly being targeted, but Angel Reese has also received some hard fouls and stuff like that. It seems like it's kind of an initiation, like welcome to the league. This is how we play. You know, you're not in college anymore kind of thing. But Angel Reese and Sky's Kennedy Carter, after doing a hard foul on Caitlin Clark, basically shoving her to the ground, was talking, Kennedy Carter, I believe, said something about what did she bring to the game except 3-pointers. I get it. All these women have been phenomenal at basketball. They've been in the WNBA. They've all this. Caitlin Clark has drawn so much attention to herself that she has expanded viewership and so many other things. So there's speculation from some people that there's a level of jealousy, the star power that she has. So they, you know, taking their digs at her because she should earn her rank in the WNBA. And so it gives them a chip on their shoulder because, you know, they didn't have that same kind of star power. They didn't bring in that same kind of audience. They weren't as most sought after, and they feel that their talent is just as exceptional, which it is, as Caitlin Clark. The difference is Caitlin Clark blew up because of her ability to shoot the 3-pointer, as the female version of Steph Curry was quoted many times when she was in college. There's a level where that potentially could be part of it. I know her team has written to the WNBA about, you know, adjusting this or fining the players for these overly rough fouls and fouls that are outside of the realm of the game, in their opinion, to possibly change the rules on what flagrant fouls are and thus punishing people who target Caitlin Clark in that manner.
Yeah, and to her credit, she has been saying, I think, this is a quote from her, I think everybody is physical with me. They get away with things that probably other people don't get away with. It's tough, but that's just the fact of the matter. This is a very physical game, and you're going to get pressure. This is professional basketball. It is what it is, honestly. So I can only assume Caitlin Clark is a Markiplier fan. That's my quote. So I can take direct responsibility. I have the shirt. It is what it is. That's my slogan, basically. So huge Markiplier fan confirmed. I take all credit.
You know what, Caitlin Clark, since we know you're a huge fan of Mark and obviously a giant fan of this podcast, because who isn't, we welcome you when Mark gets back to LA to come on our podcast and we can chat.
And I'll sign whatever you need. Don't worry. Don't be embarrassed about it. You can take pictures of me. It's totally fine. I'm very humble about those kind of things. I'll take as many pictures as you want, really. You can take any picture. Tyler will take the pictures of us for us.
Yeah, I'll happily take the pictures.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't be shy. Yeah.
Her joining of the league and the incoming of all of the new rookies has spurned a new age in a way for the WNBA as far as viewership. There are a couple of stats that were pointed out about the overall viewership and the fact that the team that Caitlin Clark is on has gotten more primetime games, almost 16 times the number of primetime games than they have had last year. I think they had one last year, according to something I saw.
Which is pretty cool, because that's the thing, is like any attention is good attention. And honestly, probably even this drama of like, is she being targeted, is probably good for the sport and the WNBA as a whole. And it's just more eyes on it, more ears listening to these stories is going to be good for the WNBA.
I also will say that a lot of people's rip on women's basketball as a whole over the years and the WNBA has been, well, they're just not as physical, you know, they're not as physical as the men. And this is seriously showcasing the fact that, no, they absolutely are. They always have been. I've played co-ed basketball a number of times. They are definitely just as physical.
Co-ed basketball?
Co-ed.
Advertise. Sponsored basketball. That's the only basketball I'll play. You want to sponsor me? I'll play your basketball.
Co-ed. Put your ad on my boxer shorts so when people look at my butt, it's right there.
I will write your company name on my body. I will sell out for any price.
Only on shirts. I can't write it on my body. Except for, you know, like if it's in pen or Sharpie that it comes off later, then I'm fine.
And let's be perfectly honest, I don't know if I've seen just flop compilations in the NBA, but it seems like people are not very physical at all and kind of a little bit overly sensitive about certain things. For protection reasons, I guess, but it's not exactly the NFL in terms of the number of brain injuries that are occurring.
And that's a good thing. All right, that's a good amount of news for me. You feel good about the news?
I feel great about the news.
Perfect. Now it's for the beers. It's beers and brews. It's time for us to enjoy our own sporting event. Listen, Mark.
What?
I know you can only have non-alcoholic beer.
I can't only. I could have one.
Listen, for your safety as your friend, I don't want you to risk it even having one. But I also trust you. So like, if you want to, it's your choice, but also I want to protect you from.
Take a stand.
Do what you want.
All right. That's so bold of you. So brave. Well done.
Mark, 4th of July is coming up.
Mark. Tyler, yes.
It's the perfect time, crack open a brew, get some dogs on the grill. It's a good time for beers. You know what else is a good time for beers? Watching sports, whether it's baseball, soccer, Formula One, rugby, tennis, or any other sport. Beer is at the venue.
Beer.
Ice cold, sometimes disappointingly lukewarm. Beer is readily available to quench your thirst. And this week, we are absolutely talking about sports, beer, and beer sports. Mark, take us back to college days. You get invited to a party. Everyone's of age, very important. And there's a table, there's cups. There are ping pong balls, video games where alcohol and sport-like activities come into play. It's not just athletic skill, but it's your stomach, it's your strong constitution, it's your ability to stay focused despite the effects of the beer, excellent eye-hand coordination.
What are you trying to say? This is coming out so awkwardly, Tyler. What are you trying to say?
Listen, it's a Markiplier free sport.
Have you ever been to a college party? Is this what you're saying? You're just wishing you were living vicariously through me?
No, I'm telling you that it carries on beyond college, and there's actually official sports, beer sports.
Wow, that's crazy.
And beer and sports has also been together since both beer and sports have existed.
Okay, all right, but you don't want me to regale you with the tales of my college days?
No, go for it. Regale me. Tell me all about your glorious.
Well, actually, wait, no. People usually know what my first drinking experience was, but I don't know what your first drinking experience was.
Well, I had a kidney transplant when I was 20. So, I didn't exactly have the ability to really enjoy alcohol. But I grew up, I would always get a small sip of my dad's beer. He would let me have a sip of beer. I truly believe, and this is my belief, and everyone has their own beliefs and legal stuff, a bunch of stuff. I think we need to destigmify drinking as a whole. Over in Europe, they let families have wine, a glass of wine, at the table as long as it's okay with the parents. And there's not as much of a problem with binge drinking. So I kind of grew up being able to try a little sip of my dad's beer growing up.
Well, I believe we need to stigmify drinking.
Oh?
That's my actual belief, because I have a firm belief that alcohol is, well, actually, it's well documented that alcohol is definitely a carcinogen, and alcohol is extremely bad for people, no matter even in small quantities. They say a little bit of wine is good for you. No amount of alcohol is good for you. There's zero evidence that any amount of alcohol is going to be good for you. But there's actually been quite a movement recently with younger and younger people who are of drinking age that are actually turning down drinking. That the prevalence of non-alcoholic beers is actually being more readily accepted, and people are understanding that drinking, and especially the negative effects of drinking and the long-term negative effects of drinking, are not worth the immediate effects, which I've always found was never worth it, because I have the inability to process alcohol anyway, and it actually leads to a buildup of the byproduct that is specifically carcinogenic called acetaldehyde in my bloodstream. I have an excessive amount of that, so it's even worse for me, but it still is prevalent in people's body. When they break it down, it's a two-stage process. It goes into acetaldehyde, and that gets broken down into water and sugar. It's still not good for everybody, and it's actually pretty cool that it's been lowered. I'm not saying everyone should stop drinking. If you enjoy a beer, that's the beauty of freedom. Do whatever you want, so long as it doesn't hurt anybody else.
Right. My main thing about it is to reduce the problem of when people get to the drinking age, that they're just hammering beers and getting completely blackout wasted. That's what I meant by destigmifying. I think, like you said, beer is a drug, alcohol is a drug, and it also needs to be treated with respect and educated upon so that people don't abuse it.
Yeah, that's what people don't even think about. That's the funny thing about language and nomenclature. Alcohol is a drug. It actually is, but no one would ever think of alcohol as a drug because they're like, no, it's a drink. You're not smoking alcohol. But alcohol is a mind-altering drug. It is, and it's extremely addictive. And it can be just about as addictive as anything else, or habit forming, or whatever you want to really call it. And it can lead you down a very dark path because people are so casual about it, especially in America. There's extreme casualness with which it is treated.
Needless to say, before we get into the episode about beer sports, we as a podcast, tell you to drink responsibly, do not abuse alcohol, be safe, do not drink and drive, always have a designated driver, all of those things. Take care of yourself and take care of your fellow humans. Now, into the meat of the matter. My first time ever getting drunk, by the way, was Halloween at Ohio State. I lost my friends and then I crawled up the stairs eventually, and it was not a fun rest of the night.
That's good.
In ancient times, people drank. They drank all the time. Sporting events, war, celebrations. But they created drinking games because beer was their water. It was drunk daily to stay hydrated. Even in modern times with our safe drinking water, beer sports and beer sports remain popular, especially here in the United States. We likely have the prohibition of the 1920s to thank for that, since once the ban on alcohol was lifted in 1930, breweries went all out with advertising their beer, using sports icons of the time to represent their beer. And studies have found that around 45% of sports fans over 21 drink alcohol on game days. And another study found in the US that 76% of sports fans said beer was their favorite drink for game day. So of the people that drink while watching the big game, most of them are drinking beer. And with how strongly linked beer and sports are, it's no wonder that beer sports are popular, especially in places like college campuses. But there's actually a pro beer sports league that hosts the Beer Olympics, Mark. It's a series of drinking games where teams compete for a cash prize, and the last Beer Olympics was hosted in 2023. The games included beer pong, pong hole, sticky wicket, cup flip, it says cup flipping games, flip cup, chugging, and races. And races, by the way, is on foot. There's no vehicles whatsoever, no bicycles, no cars, nothing. It is foot races. There is the official Beer Mile World Classic, which is considered the championship race of the sport. And both of these beer sports leagues are fairly new, but have been founded in the last 10 years. So are you ready for the history of beer and beer sports?
If it's only in the last 10 years, then I don't think we're going to go very far. Romans can't possibly touch this one.
You think. Clinkies Act 1. The history of beer and beer sports. Since beer has been a part of human culture and diet for most of recorded human history, and even before, this is only a very brief overview. It would take days, decades, years to talk about the full history of beer.
I don't think it would take that long.
You don't think so?
Years? You're saying it's going to talk about years? Okay, here I'll give you a full history of beer in human history. You got Unga Bunga 1 and you got Oingo Boingo 2, and one of them go like water dizzy, and the other goes water dizzy, and he's like water dizzy, and drinks and go water dizzy, and they go water dizzy, and they chug and chug and chug, and that's where it all started because they accidentally left their water and they spilled some grains in there and it got all fermenty, and they go water dizzy, and then they moved on to later the ancient Romans. You know, you got Oingus Boingungius and you got Doingus Boschmoingius over there, and they're like, water dizzy, and the other's like, water dizzy, you know, the Romans, how they used to speak. And then they drink more beer, and then they die. And that's what causes the fall of the Roman Empire.
With Mark's history, we're going to go into what I have here, which is that the oldest records of beer are from Mesopotamia. There's archaeological evidence that beer was brewed there around 9,000 years ago.
Wow. Does beer need to have hops to be beer?
Oh, that's an interesting point. Defining beer versus other alcohol. Wow, Google really does suck.
Yeah, nowadays Google is very bad.
The default definition for beer under federal law is greater than 0.5% alcohol by volume. A carbonated fermented alcoholic beverage that is usually made from malted cereal grain, especially barley, flavored with hops, and typically contains less than 5% alcohol content.
Which is such a fascinating thing because hops don't taste very good at all. I've never been an IPA guy. It's so bitter. It's not a good flavor. I don't understand why people do it.
Do you know why we have the bitter taste? It's literally to protect us from poison. We adapted the bitter taste ability to keep us from eating poisonous things and consuming poison.
I thought that was what the vomit reflex is for and the nausea reflex.
That's there too, but bitter leads into that too.
Either way, continue.
You're welcome. What?
I didn't say thank you. What the fuck?
Beer was a big deal in Mesopotamia. Archaeologists found records of paintings, poems, and myths depicting both humans and their gods enjoying beer.
How many eulogies?
I have none on this.
Damn, there goes the hopes of our sister podcast. Eulogies through history. Eulogies of history. Eulogistries.
I'm saving it.
We're copywriting everything I say. You cannot copy it. Eulogistries. Oh, what am I looking at?
This
it's horrible.
Is a depiction of beer with people and gods.
Ew, it's disgusting. I don't like looking at this.
Why is it disgusting?
I don't know. Something about it just like it's really off-putting.
Oh, I wonder if it's triggering your tryptophobia.
It's not even so much that. It is a little bit. That's what I thought at first. But just generally speaking, this is a very unsettling image.
It's true. I'll remove it from your eyes.
I don't like it.
Well, archaeologists found the beer rationing tablets from ancient Mesopotamia, and that was a beer rationing tablet.
Beer rationing? Wow.
Because beer was considered a dietary staple. So during this time, beer was thick, with a similar consistency to oatmeal, and was drunk through a straw to filter out herbs and bread in the drink.
Ugh. Why didn't they filter it before they drank it?
Because it would not have the same musk.
I don't want musk in my beer.
You want to have the same burn and flavor.
I'm so glad I did not live in ancient Mesopotamia. I would have had a terrible time in ancient Mesopotamia. I think most people would.
I would be dead.
You would be dead?
You know, if I was born into, the movie 300, they would have thrown me off the cliff.
They wouldn't have known. How would they have known then?
They would have just looked at me and been like, he's peeing blood.
They wouldn't have been like, wow, look at the wingspan on this baby. He's wider than he is tall. He's going to be able to throw spears real good.
They'd be more concerned about the bloody pee. So, thusly, drinking straws actually date their origin back to the ancient Babylonians and Sumerians, specifically for drinking beer.
Not the Mesopotamians, though.
No, it says Babylonians and Sumerians.
I mean, we were talking about the Mesopotamians, and you said straws there, but whatever.
They probably had straws too, but beer was also popular in ancient Egypt, and it was used in place of money to pay workers for their labor.
Just a nice cold beer. Who needs pay?
Cleopatra sponsored beer. So popular, she beer taxed to help fund her war with the Romans.
Go on.
Fun fact, the upper class ancient Romans were wine snobs, snooty tooty wine snobs that didn't like beer and thought it was barbaric. But the Roman army and working class Romans drink more than their fair share of beer. In his writings, called Germania, the Roman historian Tacitus wrote about ancient Germans and their love for beer.
Tacitus?
It could be Tacitus. Tacitus.
It is Tacitus.
Gosh darn it. I can't tell whether it's an S sound or a K sound.
Don't worry about it.
I'm going to give you the poem for you to read.
All right. Whoa. Oh boy. Potty humor ex hordio aut frumento in quandam similitudinem vini corruptis proxime ripe et vinum mercantur sibi simplices agrestia poma recens fera aut concretum sine apparatus sine blandimentis expolent famem adversus situm non idem temperantia si indulceris ebrietati suggerendo quantum cor concupiscunt hod minus facile vitis quam armis vicentur. Was that a poem? Was that a poem?
I don't know how you struggled that hard. It's really simple. It's for drink they use the liquid distilled from barley or wheat. After fermentation has given it a certain resemblance to wine, the tribes nearest the river bank also buy wine. Their diet is simple: wild fruit, fresh game, curdled milk. They banish hunger without great preparation or appetizing sauces. But there is not the same temperance in facing thirst. If you humor their drunkenness by supplying as much as they crave, they will be vanquished through their vices as easily as on the battlefield.
You know what's funny is when you were reading that and I was rereading the Latin here, I could see what words you were talking about were connecting because English has so many Latin roots. Weirdly a high number of Latin roots that it's actually kind of, you can see where the connections lie. That's fascinating.
That was Latin, and I literally read it in Latin. I don't know what you're talking about. There's a good reason that pretty much all of ancient civilizations drank beer or some form of alcohol in the daily. There wasn't much else to do, and it was kind of boring.
Clean water was hard to come by.
And they didn't have the benefit of modern waste management. So yeah, like no water treatment. So beer was safer to quench your thirst. But with beer being such an important part of people's lives for thousands of years, it's not a surprise that contests and sports involving beer emerged. Dating back to prehistory, one of the earliest recording drinking games dates back to ancient China 3,000 years ago.
Okay.
The game is called Jiuling, Jiuling, and participants would take turns reciting poetry while drinking. If you made a mistake, you would have to finish your drink. The Vikings had a similar drinking game that was basically a rap battle. The opponents would down their beer and then make up a poetry verse about how great they are or how terrible their opponent is. The drunker they got, obviously the more ridiculous it got. Whoever outlasted the other and managed to show more skill with his poetry would win. Generally, who could drink the other person under the table. But modern games that are popular today,
we all heard it,
were mostly invented at colleges in the 1940s to 60s. Like beer pong.
Did they have colleges in the 1940s and 60s? Ddid they have them? Do we
Beer
have
pong?
any evidence that they're actually, no colleges? Did they exist back then? Do we have any evidence of that?
Oxford dates back to the late 1700s, I think.
How could anybody actually prove that? Is there any evidence towards it?
Carbon dating of stones.
Could anybody really know?
Old people sharing stories.
I have my doubts.
Time travel.
Acceptable.
But beer pong is thought to have been invented by Dartmouth College when frat brothers were playing ping pong while drinking.
Oh, well, that's lovely.
But let's get into the actual beer sports.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, people are just thinking that we're talking about this for the sake of talking about it. Where's the sports?
Yeah, here's the sports. Act 2, the Beer Olympics. It's a series of drinking games where teams compete, usually for a cash prize. There's about a dozen different events, but falling into 4 major categories: beer pong, cup flipping, chugging, and races.
Yeah.
So here are a few different events. Flong!
What?
Flong.
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 Flong. It's a mix of beer pong and flip cup. The goal is to hit the last cup with a shot and have your team's flipper flip the cup. Obviously, you need 22 official cups because you need 10 on each side and the cup to be flipped. 2 official balls, regulation ping pong balls generally work, pitcher of water, and at least 4 unopened 12-ounce beers. Official beer sports table, 8 feet in length by 2 feet in width and 2.5 feet high. Pretty low to the ground. Official beer sports cups are 22-ounce fluted stadium cups, and the beer sports balls are 3-star table tennis balls. Got to be 3-star.
Okay.
All right, so Mark, describe ping pong, or not ping pong, beer pong for the audience.
All right, so beer pong is an assembly of cups with beer within them. So when you have a bunch of frat bros that you want to have a fun game where everyone drinks, you get any kind of table. There are some regulations to it, as Tyler was saying. You get a table that's longer than it is wide, okay? Just longer than it is wide. You could technically do it on the floor too. I don't see why not, but then your beer's down where everyone's kicking and they can probably kick it over. But you each have a ping pong ball. You take turns going back and forth and you try to get the ball into one of the cups that is in the shape of a triangle, because it's the most fair shape you could possibly have.
A 10-cup triangle.
I was about to say that.
Okay, sorry.
I thought this was me.
So continue.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you explaining it?
Are you?
I didn't think so.
Safety purposes, water instead of beer.
Well, I'm not done talking.
Okay, go.
Anyway, you take turns throwing it. There's a water cup to wash it off in between for quote-unquote sanitary reasons in case it falls on the floor. I don't understand the water cup. Why ever? Anyway, does people think that's magical? Like it falls on the floor and then, dunk into the water.
It's a rinse. It's clearly clean.
Yeah, perfectly clean. Doink. Yeah, not the...
In ancient times, they just spit on it.
Ancient beer pong. Absolutely true. Anyway, that's beer pong. Get it in a cup. If you get it in the cup, they drink that cup. If you bounce it in and they don't swat it away, which they can do if you bounce it, it's 2 cups or something. There's some house rules to it. I don't know.
That is correct. But in new regulation rules, the cups are filled with water and the beer is in hand for sanitary purposes.
Yeah.
So you have 10 cups on each side, both in pyramids, and they're apparently the official sports tables are broken into 4 quadrants by the table folds. You place 1 empty cup in the 2 middle quadrants, and each team must decide who will be the 2 shooters and which person will be the flipper. Each flipper will stand to the left of their shooting teammates and must flip in the middle quadrant closest to your team. Each flipper has 1 empty cup on the table before the game, and after each round of flipping, pour about 2 ounces of beer in each empty flip cup. For the way that you play Flong is you got two people shooting on the same team and 1 person flipping. To start the game, there's an initiation ritual where you have to have the beer in the cup that are for the flippers. They touch the cup to the table. They clink it for cheers, and then they touch it on the other touch it back to the table, and then they chug as fast as they can and try and flip the cup. And whoever wins that flip cup, that team gets to shoot first. Then they shoot, and once the last cup is made, the flipper has to flip the cup again to make it land upside down to then be able to cheer woo, and then that team wins.
That's great.
That's the game.
Incredible. Is it a game or is it a sport?
It's a sport because there's an official league and official rules for it with relation to if you bounce it, 2 cups are done. There's still the swatting rules and the way the flipping is and the rollbacks, and you get a re-rack each time. So each team gets 2 re-racks called before any shots and must have 6 cups or less left to hit in order to use their first re-rack.
It really sounds like a game.
Well, at the root of all sports are games, but there's an official champion, a world champion that is in there. Sport number 2, Sink the Biz.
This is not a...
Sink the Biz. You ready for this one?
Sink the Biz. Okay,
Sink
I'm
the
ready,
Biz.
Yeah. Okay, all right, yeah.
You need the official pro beer sports table, all right? 6 official cups. 1 pro beer sports Sink the Biz bucket. And an official pro beer sports Sink the Biz shot glass.
Yeah.
A pitcher of beer and 6 unopened 12-ounce beers.
Okay.
This is the official bucket and official shot glass.
This feels not a sport.
It's a sport. It's a sport.
I'm feeling no sport.
It's a sport. So what happens?
I feel like your integrity towards what is and is not a sport has really gotten lackadaisical. I remember back in the day we were talking and we were debating heavily what was and was not a sport.
Listen.
And I think the cheerleaders are still left in the lurch in the not a sport category, and you're going to let Sink the Biz be a sport?
Listen, it's an official league for the Pro Beer Sports League. There's a world champion.
There's a world champion with cheerleading. There's cheerleading championships.
I know, cheerleading's a sport.
No, we said it.
We said it was at the end of it.
You tricked me because I was like, wait, I don't know which way it went.
We ended up saying it was a sport.
All right, whatever. Either way, I feel like you've gotten really, you need to be more gatekeepy about what's a sport. Otherwise, all these other people are going to start making posts on the subreddit saying yada yada is a sport, when in reality, it's all a bunch of hogwash. And hogwashing is not a sport.
Listen, they can try and I'll shoot them down. But this has an official league. It has official rules. It's competed at internationally. It's an official league. It's competitive. It requires skill in multiple ways, especially in Constitution. But this is how this game works. You fill the bucket with beer so that each shot class clearly floats in it. And then each player has a cup with a 12-ounce beer inside, and they must hold their cup at all times. Both teams standing around the table. 3 players per side of the table, so 3 people per team, and all players must stand at least 3 feet back from the table, except for the person who is currently active. So it starts off with rock, paper, scissors. Winner gets to pick which player pours first. So they walk up and they pour beer into the shot glass that's empty, floating in the beer. And this is where strategy comes in, all right? Because you want to fill it up as much as possible without it sinking. You have to have a stream of beer when you pour it, all right?
Wait, what?
A stream of beer, like it has no drips.
Like a laminar flow of beer?
Yeah, so when you pour, it's gotta be a connected stream. It can't be just drippies. They must be 3 inches above the shot glass, and if the pour is too close, it does not count as a successful stream. During the Beer Olympics, a guardrail is used to determine legal pour height. If the shot glass sinks into the beer while you're pouring, you lose that round and gain a strike for your team. The player who sinks the shot glass must drink the shot glass. The player who drinks the shot glass pours first the next round, making sure to refill any lost beer in the bucket before each round so the shot glass stays floating. Players continue in alternating fashion, and the first team to force the other team to sink the shot glass 3 times wins. Then there's the beer mile, quarter-mile long track. You must drink an entire beer. First beer mile took place in 1989 at Burlington Central High School track in Burlington, Ontario, Canada, for the record. Over the years, beer mile races have popped up all over the US and Canada since 2014. There's even an official world championship race called the Beer Mile World Classic, and the 10th Beer Mile World Classic will be in Windsor, Ontario this August. Last year, there were athletes from over 13 different countries that participated in this race.
Damn.
So during the race, each competitor has to drink 4 cans or bottles of beer and run 4 laps around a standard 400-meter track, starting with chugging a beer, run a lap, then beer, then lap, then beer, then lap, then beer, then lap. You're allowed to walk in a certain transition zone while drinking the beer. It's 9 meters between the waterfall starting line for a mile race and the finish line of the 400-meter track. The race begins with competitors lined up on the mile starting line. Drinking the first beer in that transition zone ensures competitors cover the complete mile. They can walk and move in the transition area, but all beer must be consumed, no spilling. And women, because there's 2 categories, also must drink 4 beers and run 4 laps. In the past, the past rules only required them to drink 3, but it has been up to 4 because equality. And the beer must be no less than 355 milliliters or 12 ounces.
It sounds like a game. It don't sound like no sport.
But you just have to be the first person across the race. You're running. It's a combination of alcohol with running. And then Buffalo is another game.
Buffalo, okay, all right.
It's a game where once you start playing, you play it for the rest of your life. This is definitely a game. It is not a sport, so we're just going to skip over it. But essentially, it's basically a chugging thing where if you ever have a beer in your dominant hand and somebody calls Buffalo, you have to chug your beer.
You know, it doesn't sound like a sport.
But that's just a few of the many drinking games and competitions that exist. The Beer Olympics alone has up to 14 different events and represents multiple countries.
Seems silly. Here's what I think. I think all of this is a slippery slope. If we don't start restricting what can and cannot be a sport, because we are the final arbitrator here. It's like the Sith, there's 2 of them. You're the master of balls and holes, and I'm the apprentice of balls and holes. But someday, all Sith apprentices will kill their Sith masters, and then they will become the master of balls and or holes. And you'll see, I will rain down terror upon all of those who deem their game sports, and I will crush all their hopes and all of their dreams if they ever dare to try to become a sport.
So Mark, let's go down the criteria of what is required for sports.
Yeah, according to you.
You ready?
Yeah.
Requiring some sort of athleticism or skill.
Boo.
Rules and regulations would that allow competition to be repeatable.
Boo.
These are the rules we've established for what makes a sport.
We have not reconvened to go over the rules in quite some time, but go ahead.
Is it repeatable to have different results or be able to easily objectively determine a winner?
Boo.
Yes, that happens in beer pong. That happens in the sink one. Buffalo, not so much. Buffalo's not a sport. Running, beer mile it's just a variation on track and field. So I wouldn't classify that as its own sport. It's just adding danger to it with alcohol. So I rule that one out. Sink the biz though, skill. There's strategy to it. You got to know how to pour. There's, be steady, make sure it hits right into that shot glass. There's a team involved. So you want to try and get just to the edge to make the other team lose. There's skill. There's official rules. It's repeatable and you can objectively see who wins. And there's a world champion. Kind of fits all of the things of a sport. Has a regulation body. Same thing with beer pong. Flong.
Yeah, right.
Skill, shooting the balls, flipping the cups. By the way, for those of you that don't know how flip cup works, you take a solo cup on the edge of the table, facing upright, and you flip it to where it's upside down and lands flat upside down on the other side. Again, skill and athleticism. You got to accurately throw the balls.
We have to stop this somewhere. We have to stop it. We have to. We have to stop it somewhere. These are ridiculous. And frankly, I'm insulted. I, as an expert in sport, at this point, I claim that. I'm an expert. I'm an expert. I'm an expert. I'm an expert. I brought news that you didn't know about.
That means you're an expert reader.
I'm an expert. I knew about the NCAA big decision judgment thing before you did. I feel like I'm an expert. I rally those that believe in me. The non-sports knowers who have known so much sport now that we now know more sport than the sports knowers ever did. All those listening who started this podcast as not sport knowers, rally to my side because it is time to take over. We have numbers on our side. They, of the minuscule assembly of sports knowers, tiny proportion of the sport appreciators, they cannot control us. We can topple over their pillars of sand, as Coldplay once said, and we will dominate and take over this podcast for the betterment of everyone.
There are official tournaments. And there's even a movie poking fun at the official beer Olympics called Beer Fest.
A movie does not a sport make. There's a movie about dodgeball, and that certainly is not a sport.
It is officially a sport.
Wait. It's not real.
There's official leagues now. It's real.
Listen, there's an official movie called The Mighty Ducks, but I ain't ever seen you cover hockey.
Oh, he goes for the low blow. He's scratching the ice, everyone. He's bringing it back into my face. You know what? When you get back here, we're going to try and talk to the people who own the hockey rinks around here, the ice rinks, and we're gonna have an ice hockey shootout, and we'll really learn the sport. I'm gonna put you in goal, and I'm gonna shoot some pucks at you, and then we'll flip the roles. Anyway, Mark, so that's the beer sports. You can enjoy the games that are made up of the beer sports at home, if you so choose, of legal drinking age and are doing so responsibly. You can also do this without having any alcohol whatsoever. You can just do it with water and focus on the actual sport-like tendency of it without the alcohol involved, which I think is what makes them truly a sport, is removing the alcohol from the equation and making it so that it's just about the actual skill and prowess that is involved in making the balls into the cups in beer pong, but actually just calling it pong.
But the more important thing is the not sport knowers rise up, make yourself known, identify yourself on the subreddit and claim it as your own, because it is ours now, and we will not allow these sport knowing elitists to take over what's rightfully ours.
Mark, should we make a shirt that says sports not knower crossed out, sports expert below?
Maybe something like that. We'll decide. You sport knowers wouldn't even understand.
Okay.
The absolute magnitude of the complexities of the artistic minds that we hold inside our heads.
Listen, as the leader of that organization, you should definitely figure that out and get that done, whatever they demand and you decide. Anything else you want to say other than rising up to try and overthrow me, the master of balls and holes, and the sports knowers of the world?
Not at all. I think I've said my piece.
Okay, well, those that are enjoying and are on my side and Mark's side, or not on my side or not on Mark's side, you can still buy some sweet swag. Is swag even cool anymore? I don't even know.
Not even close. Not even remotely.
Well, you can get merch and sport it at sporting events. Store.gmfst.com. It's right there for you. You should check it out. You should see what it's like. Outside of that, go to the Reddit, reddit.com/r/gmfst. Tell us your J'accuses. J'accuse me, J'accuse Mark, J'accuse the podcast, J'accuse our researcher, J'accuse our editor. You can J'accuse anyone at this point, as long as they're associated with our podcast and it makes sense and is of value. You actually have a reason to J'accuse.
I feel like that'll open up a lot of good doors for everybody.
If you have episode suggestions, you can use the proper flair and suggest those over there as well. But outside of that, we're going to let you go. We're going to go, and I'll show Mark what a sport really is.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Okay.
That's right. I'm coming for you.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Weak ass shot.
Oh! Bye.
Bye.